Leadership and Communication Strategist, Dr. Ojoin, still very much with us in the studio. So, has justice been served? 4 years after, 135 million naira. What they actually wanted was 500 million.
Yeah, let's not forget to commend the government, this particular administration, for this thing that the government has been able to do. The Minister of Justice said the first in the history. I cannot confirm that. Yeah. But again, one thing that I've always commended this government for is taking the business of governance as a continuum. Fantastic in that area. If you look at some of the policies they've made or they've executed, you discover that many of them actually started from the last government, including the TSA. The last government started it, but could not do anything with it. Initiated it, and you understand. So for that, and if you also notice our road projects, many of the road projects and rail system projects that were actually initiated by the last government, the government has tried as much as possible to continue with them. So on the issue of that, I really want to commend this administration, and this is one of the things that I'm commending them for. If we continue to, because there was a language used, it was not on that sign by that was played, that the government was able to appeal to DSS to pay. I read that from the report. It shows that to a certain extent that if government wants to get anything achieved, that it has the power to get it achieved.
All right. Now, the concern of Nigerians here is how long it took for this to happen. Now, this incident took place in 2013, and then the pronouncement by the Human Rights Commission under Chidi Odinkalo at the time, made this pronouncement in 2014. Investigations were carried out, all the inquiries were made, but I wonder why it took so long. These are the concerns of Nigerians, like the law acting expeditiously to handle issues and get them over with.
You know, anything that will not add to political gain of any politician when it comes to election, or if they do not see it to have the capacity of adding to their political gain during election, they will not attend to it. 2015 election actually beclouded the report of 2014. And that's one of the reasons why the US government did not totally work hand in hand with former President Goodluck Jonathan's government. This is part of the report. But again, beyond that, if it is better late than never, if the last government didn't do anything about it, and this government came on board and said, oh, despite the fact that this offense was not committed during our tenure, that we want to do this, I think we should. There are a number of cases now that started even before that period that we have not.
They're still pending.
That are still pending up to now.
All right, let's even look at the claims of the DSS that they had carried out thorough investigation and they discovered to their satisfaction that these men who were squatting, the commercial motorcycle riders who were squatting in this unfinished building, were actually members of Boko Haram. That was their claim to this, panel set up by the CR.
At that point in time, it was very glaring. It was clear that the DSS was actually lying. They talked about security report. You know, I'm one of those people that will always tell you, it's a lie. What they relied on was a confession of somebody who was not even sure. You discover that
who was at large? Who was at large at
you discover that even before the killings took place, they went to one cemetery.
Exactly.
They were looking for arms.
Looking for arms, and they didn't see.
They scattered everywhere. There was no arm anywhere. They were relying on confession of somebody. And this, again, has happened in Kaduna. Lately, if you discover that somebody actually said, what's the name of this senator, that somebody confessed that he was behind one killing. Police, DSS should not rely on confession of criminals alone. You cannot rely on the confession of criminal and say you have garnered security report. It was a lie. It was not any security report. Before you call something security report, you are not going to take it from a criminal. You will have confirmed it from at least 2 other sources.
So would justice truly be served if somebody takes the blame, takes responsibility for being quick to use their weapons?
They will never
because
take
will this really serve as a deterrent to police officers or DSS or even the army when it comes to fighting Boko Haram or whatever it is they're fighting.
Taking responsibility, I think, is not part of the training of officials of government in Nigeria, including politicians. People will never come out to take responsibility. And at the end of the day, even when it is glaring that they've committed the infraction, they will still come out to defend themselves. But again, beyond paying compensation, there's the need for those that are involved to be punished, especially the leadership at that point in time. We must call them and punish them appropriately, so that at least that will serve as deterrent to people that are still in service.
Although seeing it from another perspective, the point there is, we've had security analysts here who have said that the issue of security is very complicated.
It is.
At that time, there was a threat of imminent attack on Abuja, and it led them to act the way they acted. But one would say that, would you act as a state agency, would you act in that regard when you have not really seen an opposition or a confrontation from those you are deciding to attack?
And according to them, these unarmed men, the DSS claimed that they were fired at first, and that was why they returned fire. And yet, these men were not armed.
At the end of the day, we didn't see anything. Mike, the cure to all this is for us to always live ready. At that point in time, the DSS was overwhelmed by the information that Abuja would be attacked. And they were looking for any means to just stop the attack. But if we have been living ready, if we gather security information, even when we do not have any threat aside, then we'll have time to be able to process. The problem they had at that point is that the information overwhelmed them, and there was no time for them to process the information. That's why they realized they could not dispatch their men at that point to confirm the security report they got from a criminal. But again, I will be careful if I were involved, because if this person led me to a cemetery and lied to me that is the place that these criminals hid their arms, and I got there and I didn't see anything, then sense
something
logic should tell me
that
I need to be very careful. And that is what we do not have. Even it is not even limited to security. We are not a people that have a culture of living ready. We do not live, we are just, when it happens, we are reactionary. And it's not good enough.
All right, now going forward, I wonder what lessons are there to learn from, because when it comes to government agencies, we've seen sometime last year or 2 years ago where the military manhandled I think someone in Enugu State, and he was compensated. Now we don't see these things every day, but what can we learn really going forward, holding government agencies accountable, whether we have a lot of complaints against SARS, you know, and some other military or paramilitary agencies?
First, I think all Nigerians must understand the principle of value of themselves for their life. Because if you do not value yourself, at the end of the day, these things happen every day, Mike, that don't get to the pages of newspaper. They happen every day. But once you attach value to yourself, it doesn't matter how the government sees you, then you'll be able to press. Again, we need to identify the issue of poverty. Nothing will make a man squat in the first place if not poverty.
In an unfinished building.
In an uncompleted building. We need to identify. And many of those people who even want to press charges against government agencies do not have the resources. They cannot even walk to even government, some of these public complaint, this thing. They don't have information. So poverty, lack of education has combined to reduce the value of an average Nigerian. But again, 130-something million naira does not mean anything to government. So for us to be able to actually learn something in the real sense of it, the perpetrators must be punished. So when you punish perpetrators, everybody, both within and without the service, we see that at the end of the day, it's not just about government paying compensation. It's about people that are involved being punished.
And of course, the Human Rights Commission really should be thanked for following this to a logical conclusion for these families to get closure. Dr. Ojo, thank you very much for joining us on TVC Breakfast this Monday.
See you next week.